Back. If you are just joining us, this is Firecrackers, and we are discussing the Niger military group and resolving strained relationship with Ecowas. I have with me here in the studio Dr. Felix Olorunda, a public affairs analyst. Many thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
And we have joining us virtually, we have retired U.S. Major Yinka Ogunsoya, who is joining us live from the U.S. He is a security expert. We'll be taking as a security expert on this topic. Many thanks for being with us at this time. All right, and we also have Ambassador Gani Lawal, who is joining us live from Lagos. He is the President of Association of Foreign Relations Professionals of Nigeria. Many thanks for joining us. Okay, and joining us we have Ankil Briggs, a social commentator and a public affairs analyst, who will also be joining us in this discussion. Many thanks for being with us at this time. Okay, all right, let's dive right into the topic. I would like to start with Ambassador Gani Lawal, because a lot of people right now are saying that, a lot of movement, a lot of groups right now are saying that perhaps ECOWAS should not rush with attacking this with the military, with military rather, but employ diplomacy. And just on Thursday, the ECOWAS made the decision of having military stand by and getting ready to take Niger by force. Do you think that action is the one needed at this point in time?
Well, thank you. If you look at the protocol setting up ECOWAS itself, which was molded after the United Nations own protocol, there is complete there's a complete ban of interference in the internal affairs of a nation. That's number one. Number two, ECOWAS being an international organization, both in theory and practice, the J is a liberty to join and leave. Then number three, I do not see ECOWAS having deployed all the necessary participants of settlement in an international dispute of this nature, which involves mediation, arbitration, and reconciliation. I think ECOWAS must have put the cart before the horse by threatening the junta, giving them ultimatum, and threatening them with military intervention. Those steps are capable of hardening them. I want to recall when President Kufuor of Ghana was the chairman of the ECOWAS authority, and that was the time Mali, staged their own coup. There wasn't any rush to this kind of threat and ultimatum. I heard that they were discussing with them, talking about giving them 6 months to return to democratic governance. So why does it not apply to Niger? Is it because our president is new, or is being reloaded to take the right decision, honestly following the down protocol? Again, Nigeria is able to J. One would expect cultural diplomacy, which is defined in the policy of Nigeria, which was combined by experts. I think we look and the trade softly and along the
We are not getting your audio feed perfectly. But now this makes me want to ask Yinka Ogunsoya. You see, Niger and Nigerians, they are neighbors. In fact, some people in northern Nigeria have families living over in Niger, because the border is just like two villages living right there side by side. And it is no news that a lot of people in Niger Republic are not fans of Nigerians right now, especially considering the step that President Tinubu has taken. So at this point in time, what should Nigeria be doing, since it seems we are sending our military over there, whereas it is also obvious that we also need protection here in Nigeria? So should we be panicking yet, or should we be worried about our security?
Thank you for your question, and thank you for having me. First of all, let me make it very clear. I'm not an advocate of war. I've been in 4 wars myself, twice in Afghanistan, twice in Iraq. Anybody that's been to war would never, ever, ever wish war on his enemies. Right now, the borders are interlocked. They're not really controlled. So we need to be very, very careful and continue some diplomatic missions. So there's a synergy between the military intervention, which we call the PSYOPs, psychological operations and warfare. It's not everything that's going to determine brutality or just invasion. Niger is a sovereign country. We have to find all means possible to mitigate that and make sure their integrity is kept sane. If we go ahead with the threat to go into Niger, some few things is going to be a fallout on Nigerians. You're going to be a mass exodus of refugees that we're not planned for. Mixed among them is going to be insurgents that's going to invade our country even more. So we have to look at those economic implications and determine, are we ready to do that? But a diplomatic operations aligned with military could work, and it doesn't have to be a threatening one either.
If you're just joining us, this is Firecrackers, and we are just getting started. And we are talking about the Niger military coup and resolving the strained relationship with Ecowas. But it is important to note that the Niger Republic is not the first country in West Africa that coup is going to be taking place. So now I would like to see the opinion of Ankil Briggs on this. What do you think makes Africa peculiar to this incessant military coup that we are having currently?
Good afternoon, everyone. The issue of coups in Africa, Nigeria itself has had so far 5 coups, and I think about 3 or 4 attempted coups. Nobody sent troops to invade Nigeria. Ecowas was definitely too quick, and that's a shame, because Tinubu is the head of Ecowas right now. And I think he should have had better advice from the military of Nigeria and ECOWAS combined. And the issue of the fact that we have always had coups, if you like, in Nigeria, whether it's in the Sahel or in West Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, it has always been about injustice. It has always been about the failure of our people to deliver the so-called dividends of democracy, the ones America, the British, the EU, and even the UN goes on about, that democracy is the best form of government. I do not disagree with them. I agree with them. But they have to be very, very careful and listen to Africans at the moment. If you look at the age group of the people that so far has perpetuated the coups, you look at the map that we are shown, talking about the Francophone countries, the countries in West Africa and in the central part of Africa, that the French have colonized. And you actually get to hear and experience, if you like, in your imagination, what the French have put these people through. It really is a huge surprise that these coups have not happened more often, and that actually they have not yet succeeded in throwing the French, and if you like, any other group of Westerners that are cutting away the resources that is in Africa, and yet being in a position to control what goes on in Africa. We have to be very careful. Some of the consequences that will be the fallout of what's happening now is also the activities of the Chinese and the activities of Russians. I don't want us to find ourselves in a situation where we're going from frying pan to fire. Whether it's the British or whether it is any of the European countries, the Germans with the Berlin Conference, where they shared up Africa for themselves, French and the Portuguese and all of that, what has happened in Africa. I think really and truly, the coup is the only way that people are going to sit up and know that the people today that are in certain age group are no longer prepared to accept what is happening. How America can almost, if you like, be behind or instigating, even if you like, the fact that Ecowas somehow is now the best group of people. The countries in Ecowas cannot put their hand on their hearts and claim that there is too much democracy that is going on within those countries right now. A change is needed in Africa. The intellectual revolution has started in Africa. It doesn't have to be violent. I'm a human rights activist. The only thing that I would want to employ, if you like, in all of these countries that may even be considering in the future coups is that like the leader of Niger, there is no need for them to be harmful to him. They should keep him in a state where he's all right. People are talking about he doesn't have electricity. How many people in Niger have electricity? Nigerian government has cut off the electricity to Niger. So I think African countries and their leaders need to pull themselves together and confront the monster. The monsters we're facing in Africa today are not the people that are perpetrating the coup. The people perpetrating the coup are reacting to the injustice and the unacceptable and ridiculous situation that truly Africa has found itself in. And we must rise up and do something about it. The days of killing people like Patrice Lumumba and Thomas Sankara, I think those days are over. We need people that will sit around the table with Africans and decide what is going to happen to the resources that we own in Africa.
Okay, all right. We thank you so much for your input. And now back to Ambassador Gani Lawal. You see, the military junta has come up with their own prime minister. Do you not feel like perhaps ECOWAS should try to work with this new prime minister and perhaps try to get the initiative or the intuition behind the actions of this military junta, rather than saying compulsorily they must reinstate the ousted president of Niger?
There is no way ECOWAS will get away with that kind of tall order. Reinstate ousted president within 1 week, so that when he comes back, he will charge the coupists for felony and kill all of them. Is that what ECOWAS wants? Does it happen that way? I don't think so. I think there are laid down rules that had to be followed. But since ECOWAS had refused to follow the laid down protocol, they have put the car before the horse, they've shot themselves in the foot. The only avenue open to ECOWAS now is to walk behind AU, because probably the junta will not want to receive any envoy from ECOWAS again, because they've been threatened and they have been hardened. So what is needed to be done now is to hide behind AU and get across to the new regime, build bridges behind them, and walk them towards the hill where they would transit from the present arrangement to real constitutional governance. That is my own advice as it were now. So this hard stance is not going to help ECOWAS, and it's not going to work, and it's not going to fly. In fact, for Nigeria, it's a very bitter pill to swallow, and we just have to tread softly. There are lots of recommendations in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that can be consulted in dealing with this kind of thing. There are different think tanks in Nigeria. I'm sure the majority of them are spoken, and I'm sure government has listened, and that is why you are hearing that as a last resort, a military option is ECOWAS standby force. Where is that force? Who is the leader of that force? I mean, I know that all this braggadocio is part of a negotiation, but I think the way out now is to soften our stand, get people behind the junta to work with them, and to transit from the present arrangement to full democratic governance.
You mentioned being a participant in the Afghanistan and Iraq war, and one of the things about this war is, well, a lot of people have opined that it always has some Western flavor right in between, and they are trying to benefit from the war that is going on. And now that we have coup again in Africa, do you feel like perhaps the reason they are clamoring for democracy, that is the West now, is because they have something to gain in African countries and not just for the sake of democracy?
Thank you. So, for every action taken by the Western world, there's a self-interest to be protected. I'll give you an example. The Americans rushed into Kosovo because of genocide and stand aside and watch Rwanda burn. It's all about self-interest. When there's interest, the
with them. And now to Dr. Felix Olorinda. Many thanks for being with us at the studio today. Okay, so now we are talking about democracy. You know, a lot of people have opined that perhaps Africa is not ready for democracy. It is something foreign, it is something alien to us, and perhaps it's something that maybe we are supposed to grow to it or embrace our own indigenous style of ruling. Do you feel that perhaps because it is not for us, and that is the reason we are witnessing lots of collapse in democracy?
Yes, thank you. I've yet not seen a country develop democratically in Africa. So, and I've done, it's a research that I've personally undertaken to see, if you look at all the countries in Africa, which country can you point to that developed democratically? When you go to the South Africa was developed through the white minority, the apartheid regimes. When you come to the West Africa that we're talking about, and you talk about Ghana was developed by Rawlings dictatorship of 20 years and thereafter. So, the changing of power every 4 years, and with this cost of governance, if you take our Nigeria for example, do you really think we are going to make progress? We are here to find the right thing that can work for us in Africa. So democracy, if we go to the northern part of Africa, where it's Libya, Tunisia, Morocco, those are not democracy. They are not developed by democracy. So we need to come out with our own fashion of democracy that can work for us. Because if I understand democracy very well, it doesn't work in an atmosphere where you have this crunching poverty. It doesn't work. So we have to, even the West that are pushing the democratic process to us, In America, their own democracy is even different. Their election is not the general election that we do. They say have to go to electoral college and select who want to be the leader. So the popular election, the popular vote, Clinton won the popular vote by over 3 million above Trump. But Trump was the one that won the electoral college vote and was inaugurated. So we have to fashion out our own idea that can work with us. Because Rwanda is now being touted as one of the countries that are doing well in Africa, but the gentleman has been there for how many years? For upward of 13, 14 years. So you need to, I'm not talking about we have to add, but I'm here to see a country, really in Africa, that has been developed democratically. And so we are here in the issue of Niger. So how are you going to ask the people there to get out in 7 days? It does not happen. It doesn't happen. So that is not going to work. So you have to come back and look at the problem that we have in Nigeria. So we should start pursuing our national interest.
Okay.
In the country.
If we look at how the citizens of Niger is feeling right now, from videos we've seen that have emerged on social media, they seem to be very glad that the military took over. In fact, some of the youth in that country helped in outing the president. I don't know if it is right to say the former president now, because yes, things are still a little bit tricky.
Yes.
And one of the things they are calling for is injustice, corruption. Do you feel like perhaps the reason ECOWAS is hell-bent on democracy right now in that country is because maybe they're all birds of the same feather, the same corrupt leaders in the same country, and maybe it's this fear of it getting back to us if we support it? Do you feel like maybe that's perhaps the reason ECOWAS is so hell-bent on democracy in Niger?
Well, I don't know what their reason is, but what I can understand is that coup is a bloodless coup. That means nobody's killed. The president has been seen, is under arrest, and there are complaints that it's not been treated well. There's no water, there's no light. But we know that Niger is one of the poorest nations of the world, not even in Africa. One of the poorest. And so people, and this coup is very popular with the Nigerians. We see them, we see how they're happy about it. And the man there has been accused of corruption and all of that. So the ECOWAS should look at that. And Nigeria being the head of ECOWAS, and who is going to bear the cost of whatever war, whatever adventure in that country, our own president should think more of our own challenges that we have here in Nigeria. And so when you push for this democracy, reinstatement of the president by force in Nigeria, what of Mali, what of Burkina Faso, what of Chad? These are neighboring countries, francophone countries, military, that are ruled by military, and they got their Guinea, they got their true military coin. They didn't say anything about it. So why this being particular about Niger? I think what ECOWAS should have done is to work with the new man there and see how the democratic process can be restored, instead of giving a marching order for him to leave the stage and to restate, because you don't really have the means to do that immediately. And the cost, and I'm thinking far more about the cost, about what that cost will bring to us, because we know that in the days of Ecowas, even Nigeria was the one that bear most of the cost. And so our economy right now is not doing well, and we are not happy, even at Nigeria with our own government, because of the challenges that we see in our economy. So you don't commit us to that kind of adventure that's going to cost us a lot of foreign exchange.
Okay, let's look at the role that religion is playing presently in this coup and relations with other countries. United States sent their representative. They were unable to see the leader. Even they did not see leaders from ECOWAS. But then we have the ousted Sultan, that is Sanusi, who went there, and he was given what I would like to call a warm welcome. He was able to dialogue with the military head there right now. What do you think ECOWAS should learn from that development?
Yes, like I think the ambassador commented on that you have to use back channel. You have to use, not necessarily government, you have to follow through. There are people, because religion is a very strong factor in all of this, because the major religion over there is Islam. And so they are Fulanis, and they share border with our own northern part of Nigeria. And so the gentleman that you refer to, the former Emir of Kano, leading a group or a set group in West Africa who belong to a particular set of that religion. And it was that leadership opportunity that he used to reach the, and he did say that it was not sent by the Nigerian government, but he went on his own because there are a lot of followers who are following his own set of Islamic religion in that country, and they were able to facilitate him having a meeting with the coup leader or the president or the head of state. And so I think most of those channels should be used because it's predominantly, you can't take away religion. Politics in Nigeria is politics of identity. You play politics of identity in Africa, okay? So either you are a Christian or you are a Muslim or you are this tribe, that tribe. So you can't divorce that from what is going on. So majority of them, they are in the country, they are Muslim. So you need to interface with that channel to be able to get something done with them.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for your